Hey, what's up guys? Node Investor here. Let's take a look at the charts today. Bitcoin putting in some bullish action. The bulls appear to be back. I want to do some analysis. We've been looking at the potential for a head and shoulder top pattern forming last couple days. That's starting to look invalidated now as the pattern continues to move sideways, which is good news. I want to show a couple different perspectives, the bull side, the bear case, and we'll see where it goes. But in summary, I believe Bitcoin is going higher near term. There's a couple of resistance levels that we want to keep an eye on, and as well as on downside. But before we get to that, most importantly, today is a very special day, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not familiar, if you are new to the space, January 3rd, 2009, the Genesis block was mined. Satoshi Nakamoto made history when he or she or they released the Genesis block, which is the original block, the first 50 Bitcoins created. And unlike the other ones that came after it, there was a message that time stamped it. It said the time 3 Jan 29, 2009, Chancellor on the brink of second bailout for the banks. And so I'm going to link to this article here in the video notes. It's a really cool article on Investopedia, just kind of giving you a very quick summary. And for those of you that have not caught up on the history, there's a lot of good references, and check it out. This is a pretty cool story, and if you haven't seen Banking on Bitcoin or some of those other documentaries, I highly recommend you check that out just to really get an appreciation for the history of Bitcoin. And here we are, 2018, and we've come such a long way. It's been such an amazing journey. And just to think back that, 2009 wasn't really that long ago in the big scheme of things, but it just seems like forever. The great financial crisis was underway, and, here we are. Cryptocurrency is now a mainstream asset, and we've just come a long ways. This is really cool to see. And on January 12th, the official Bitcoin holiday, right, because that's the first transaction recorded, and that's when Satoshi Nakamoto sent the first ever mined Bitcoin to Hal Finney. So I'll also link to this one so you guys can read some of those and just kind of get a pretty cool perspective on some of the history and the journey that we've been on and this amazing industry that has been created ever since then. So let's get to the charts here. Bitcoin, really quick, looking at the market dominance, it's been rising here the last couple of weeks, and then it just started really to fall. The alts have been on a nice run in most of December, while Bitcoin's been consolidating, and we hit a low today of 36% Bitcoin dominance, starting to bounce a little bit. Bitcoin's starting to get a little bit of a bid here. A big part of this dominance, though, is certainly Bitcoin Cash had a big run in December, and Ripple has had a significant rally, and the market cap has grown by leaps and bounds. So that's been a big run. And then, of course, many of the other altcoins have just really been on a good move here. So Bitcoin dominance has certainly come down. We've hit a new low at 36. We're starting to bounce a little bit, and I expect a little bit more upside here. But longer term, I don't expect to see the Bitcoin dominance to ever go back to 80 or any of those very high numbers, just because this is such a maturing market, and there's just so many more platforms and applications, crypto related, that are coming out. So this is going to become less and less meaningful as time goes. And for you Bitcoin maximalists that think the Bitcoin dominance will eventually get back to those numbers, I don't think so. I think there'll be room to grow. I think Bitcoin will continue to grow, certainly, but so will many of the other altcoins. And so you can see here the coin market cap just breaking out to new highs here. We were consolidating nicely for most of December, putting in this nice ascending pattern, and here we are just shooting out the gate, and we're almost at 700 billion, 685 billion, and we're within shooting distance here of the 700 mark. The altcoin market has really been contributing to that, now at $431 billion, so significant move. Let's take a look at the Bitcoin chart. So Bitcoin, a couple of things to look at here. So we were watching this potential bearish reversal pattern, the head and shoulder pattern that we were pointing out here. You can see there was the first shoulder, then the head, then we came down, made this low, and then we started to rise, and we failed just below the first shoulder and then started to turn around. And the key test was, were we going to break that neckline, right? That elusive neckline here. We came back, we tested it. In reality, we kind of undercut it a little bit and bounced right back, which is really good. So there's a case to be made that that was really the neckline. it went under and came right back up on the daily chart, and here we are bouncing. I've been cautious until we saw a breach above the 10 EMA on the daily chart, and here we are following through. Now if we zoom in a little bit, you can see the volume has been pretty good here in this most recent move. The last couple of bounces above were not as strong, but this was pretty good move percent wise, and volume came in along with it. On that one move there in the 4-hour bar, that was an 8% move, and that's pretty good. If you look at the 1-hour chart, you can see some of the volume. Now there was some selling, profit taking here at the top. I think the market is still very cautious every time Bitcoin would rally. Is this another fake out? Is that the low? And rightly so, right? We've been very choppy for the last couple of weeks. We'd have these big rallies and then we get shaken down, big volume selling. But just in the last couple of days, we're starting to see that pause. You can see here we had this one big 1-hour bar that took it right back into that 14K range, and then it started to bounce around, really consolidate here, and then here we go, seeing some good follow through here today, and just kind of sitting tight. And now the Bitcoin looks like it wants to keep going up on that 4-hour chart, putting in a nice little bit of a bull flag here last couple bars, and here we are moving higher. I'd like to see some more volume on this follow through, but right now everything is pointing to this wants to go higher near term. Now how high do we go? That's the big question. So let's take a look back at the chart here. The first thing, the most important resistance point, is going to be that potential right shoulder that was forming, which now looks to be invalidated. And so this little area right around that 16 to 16.5 level, that little zone there is going to be your key resistance level, and we're almost there. We're only a few percent away when you look at that. And you know, to get to 16K from this point on, this is on Bitfinex. It'll vary a little bit by exchange, but on Bitfinex you're talking about 5 to 6% away, and on the upside maybe 7-8% away. That also correlates with a key resistance that used to be support zone, which is this area here that broke down. You can see we came down and we tested it down here, we rallied higher, we tested it right here, we finally broke through, and that was the resistance point that created that right shoulder. So that's going to be the first big test, is getting back above that resistance point in that low 16K area. Will it happen? I think we'll rally right up to it. Then the fear in the market will kind of be cautious. You'll see some profit taking, some selling, and we'll see from there. Will we pull back a little bit, maybe create a little bit of a cup and handle type pattern and then bust through? Looks like we could. Now the indicators are all pointing stronger. The MACD is crossing, the RSI is pointing north, so that's the bull case. Another way I'd like to look at it too is on the daily chart here. Let me clear some of this here real quick. On the daily chart, especially at the lows, we put in a pretty good double bottom pattern, and it's really easy to see if you switch this chart over real quick to a line chart. And I don't use line charts very often, but sometimes they just kind of clear up the noise and take some of the wiggles out of the picture here. So let me make the line chart here for you guys. And so here's the line chart, and you can see what this does is just very simply plots the closing price for every period on this chart. So in this case, it's a daily chart, and so you'll see the daily closing price. So it kind of takes a lot of the noise out, which is kind of nice to see once in a while. And what you do is you can see there's this double bottom that formed on the daily chart there. And so we will get confirmation when we break above that inflection point there, that pivot point in the middle of that W there, and so that will be confirmation. But right now it's looking like it wants to form. Another thing is, at these two lows we saw some of the higher volume in this pattern form, and so that's leading me to think that maybe that was the low. There's a good possibility that it was a pretty good move peak to peak. You know, it was like 40%, but if you look at just on a closing basis, we still closed down 35% from the top, and so it could have been enough to wash out some of the over bullishness. The RSI didn't quite get as low as I expected it to. However, it did get down to 40. I was looking to see it come all the way down to what it's done in the past, where it goes down to the 30s. You can see it here, it did, and here it did. So some of the last big moves have taken the RSI down quite a bit. But if it bottoms out here at 40, that's just going to go to really show the strength in this move, some of the bullishness that we've seen in this run, and this certainly would be enough to cool off some of that overheatedness we saw going into, you know, mid-November, December, where it was just going parabolic. It needed a pause. That was a good pause. There's a good chance that that was a double bottom, and we start to see some more sideways / upward consolidation here. Another thing I'd be looking at too is the Fibonacci level, right? If we actually take a look at the entire move in 2017 and we do a Fibonacci retracement on that move peak to peak, you can see that double bottom came right to that first key level, that 382 level, right around 12.2K. Certainly undercut it on some of those extreme sell-off days, but on a closing basis, it touched that line. That line also happens to correspond with the daily 50-day moving average, which is right up to that point now. I don't have it plotted here, but just a lot of ways to look at that. So on the bull case, it's looking pretty good from that perspective. We're still making a series of lower highs, however, so you got to be cautious until we start to confirm that. Doesn't mean you can't trade it. I'm certainly taking positions. I've been trading alts all along this way anyway. Bitcoin's looking strong, so moving back into that. But until it takes out that high, technically we're still making a series of lower highs. And if it turns around here and starts to fail, then the level we're not going to want to see it breach near term, you're not going to want it to get below that 13K level. That was a battle that was happening, and we're finally bouncing higher. So 13K would be my first stop. Below that, ultimately, we're not going to want to see it break that mid to lower 12K area that it finally closed above. And if we do, then that will really signify another leg down in this market. Now let me switch screens here and go to some of the altcoins. Now some of the other altcoins are showing a lot of strength and leading me to believe that the downside is going to be limited, because I was expecting the alts to really bottom out before Bitcoin did, and certainly they have been. And there's some that are just, even with this Bitcoin rally, they're not pulling back very much. A lot of them really took a big hit when Bitcoin popped earlier today, but many of them are still holding up. So let's look at Cardano, one of my tops for 2018, continues to show some strength. If you look at this 4-hour chart, I mean, just so bullish, just stair-stepping its way up, has these pauses, continuing to rise, volume is coming in on the daily chart. Just look at how strong that's been since basically end of November. So this is one to watch. It is extended here, but it just continues to show strength, so I'd be watching this one. Bitcoin Cash has actually been putting in a very nice daily pattern. Whatever you believe about Bitcoin Cash or not, you can't argue with this chart. I mean, just look at how strong this one is. It's been putting in these ascending patterns, had that big rally, that Coinbase listing here that we then sold off from here during the big sell-off with Bitcoin and some of the other names, but bounced right back, starting to put in a little bit of a bull flag here, starting to turn around the right side here. So keep an eye on this one. If this one gets back above that 3K range, I think you're going to see a lot more upside on Bitcoin Cash. And this little consolidation has given it enough time to really cool off some of the overboughtness on the indicators. Looking at Ethereum, that was the strongest of the big three for the last couple of days, and I still like it here. It did have a big reversal day today due to the breakout in Bitcoin, and look at where it bounced right into. It hit a key resistance level. You can see going back here, there was this big base, and that was the support level that finally broke, that caused a big downturn. We bounced right into that, came right back down, and this was when Bitcoin was going parabolic. Ethereum was not keeping up from a percent basis, and that's what was the BTC chart showing this big downfall. But here we bottomed out, and look at where we rallied right up to it, and we actually broke out today intraday, and it was looking very strong until Bitcoin really started to pull in. But you can see that huge volume came in, and then it really reversed hard, but a lot of support came in. So I'd be watching this one. I still like it. I think Ethereum here in the near term is going to continue to make new highs, especially when you look at the USD side. We're right at new highs here, and the big target is $1,000 Ethereum. Will we see it? Right now, this is pointing to we will, and as long as it continues to hold these moving averages, I'm going to be bullish Ethereum. I'm still holding my Ethereum here. Let's take a look at NEO, and this is one I've really been liking, and it was setting up real nicely, and I'm still holding some NEO. I've been adding along the way as it's been pretty bullish here the last couple of days. And so zooming out, this is the NEO dollar chart. The daily chart just is so strong. Let me go to another exchange here. So this is on Bittrex. It's got a lot of wicks, but if you zoom out, you can just see this big base that it put in last year and finally broke above that, and little by little we're starting to stair step higher. I think we have more upside. I've been telling everyone that NEO is a coin I believe will be a triple digit coin in 2018, and we're certainly pretty close to that now. Right now we're testing new highs versus BTC. You can see how strong it's been off the lows. It finally broke that downtrend that I had been watching for so long. And let me move the line here, and you can see where it was testing it for a long time, kept hitting that wall, finally broke it here in the last week, and we're marching higher after a little consolidation right around that 45 to 50, 500k Satoshi level, and here we are moving higher. And so I'm still bullish on this one. I'm still liking it. It's pausing a little bit here with Bitcoin having its run here, but you can see here on the 1 hour chart, it's pulled in quite a bit. A lot of profit taking showing up. It's starting to hit these near-term oversold levels on the 1 hour, so I'd be looking for a bounce here. And it's right at the key support level, which is this base that it just consolidated from last couple of days that it broke out of. And it had a nice little tradable rally. So this little base broke out. You can see the volume came in on this one bar here. That was your entry point. And we had a... what was that rally? 23%. So not a bad little rally in a couple of days. And here we are pulling back, retesting that breakout point. That's the level I'd like to see it hold and then start to form the right side of this base and bounce from here. A couple of other names that you want to keep an eye on that I'm really liking the daily pattern here. Quantum is one of them. You can see this chart versus BTC. I had a big run in early mid-December, and since then has just been consolidating, letting the moving average catch up. I'm really liking the way that chart's setting up. On the USD side is looking just as strong. You can see how tight this is getting. So look for a breakout on this one above that $56 to $60 mark. Or on the BTC side, if it can start to hold and bounce off this level that it's consolidated over, that's the level to be watching here. Ripple continues to be strong. How high can this one go? And it's just stair-stepping its way up. We had a huge run here, and we're starting to pause. I'm not sure if it's done yet. It's just sitting tight here, even with BTC doing its thing. There's very little sell volume. Just look at how quiet this is getting. I mean, it has the big runs, and then it just sits tight. I think it'll continue to run until GDAX, Coinbase announces that this is the coin that's listed, and it might be one of the buy the rumor, sell the news scenarios where after that you see a little pump and then a little bit of a sell-off. There's a lot of other rumors going around with Ripple with regards to some deals they're making with big companies. Maybe it's going to be used as a cryptocurrency transaction, a payment other than just banking, Swift network and all that. So I'm not sure if any of those rumors really hold water, but the chart is still bullish, probably one of the strongest names out there right now. And you can see versus USD side, it's just marching along higher. Now it's certainly overextended. Let's put it that way, but it can keep going at these levels for a little bit, but it's definitely overextended. And I believe when it's finally done, it's going to have a pretty decent correction to the downside. But for now, one of the strongest names out there. Lumens is another one that's looking really good. You can see it's been having a nice rally the last couple of days. And zooming in here just has these little pauses. These are good secondary entry points. I've made some pretty good trades on this one in and around some of these pauses, and they give you some pretty quick pumps here when they do. You can see this last couple days here was 60% to the upside in just a couple of days after that little pause. So certainly some strength out there. There's a bunch of other names. I won't go through them all, but some of the alts are holding up very well. I think alts will continue to do well in the near term, even if Bitcoin continues to move higher. I think that what we saw today was just a little bit of initial reaction, and you're seeing some of the stronger names really bounce and kind of just shake off that move. And so I'd be looking at both, and I'm going to continue to look for those setups and those patterns, and I'll keep you guys posted. I will also be publishing my 2018 top picks, and this is probably more like first half of 18 because everything just changes so fast in this space, but finishing up that, so look out for that newsletter. If you're not already getting it, you can go ahead and pick that up for free at nodeinvestor.com, right on the homepage. Join the Node Insiders, and you can get that there. Just drop your email, subscribe, and you'll get that when that comes out. It's going to be it for today, guys. Until next time, take care.